I'll start. India is the fifth largest ethanol producer after the United States, Brazil, China, and Canada. The country sees the ethanol blending program as a way to cut the oil import bill, boost international sugar prices, and help reduce carbon emissions in large cities. India has 330 distilleries, which can produce over 4 billion liters of rectified spirit, which is alcohol, per year. Of these, 162 distilleries have the capacity to distill over 200 crore liters of conventional bioethanol. India produces conventional bioethanol mostly from sugar molasses and partly from grains. Production of advanced bioethanol is still in the R&D stage. The Indian government has made many announcements recently to boost the ethanol blending and save the import bill on crude imports. This would also include introducing new vehicles supporting higher blending and also vehicles running 100% on ethanol. Today's discussion will focus on the opportunities and challenges in quality and productivity of the ethanol sector. The deliberation today will follow a set of structure, starting with setting up of the context by the line ministry and then the discussions and deliberations by the panelists. This will be followed by few questions from the audience. I request all the speakers to switch on their video and all the participants to keep their mics and cameras off to avoid any sort of disruption. You can post your questions in the chat window, which will be taken up by the moderator later during the Q&A session. Today, we are very grateful to have with us Sri Vivek Shukla, Director, Sugar and Vegetable Oils in Department of Food and Public Distribution, to set the context for the webinar. He is a 2004 batch Indian Statistical Services officer. Prior to his current profile, he was working as a director in Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen. First of all, I extend my heartfelt thanks to DPIIT, Quality Council of India, and other partners for inviting me for this setting of context of this series of webinars on, especially on ethanol sector, which is being held today. I also like to congratulate DPIIT for this innovative idea of doing these webinars on the specific sectors and to identify issues so that we can find solutions. Ethanol, so far the setting of context is concerned, the ethanol blended with petrol program, as most of us are aware, was launched in the year 2003. But due to one reason or another, it could not gather pace due to various reasons. But since last 6-7 years, various measures, steps have been taken by the government, and you can see by the data itself. By in 2014, I 173 crore liter of ethanol for the blending purpose, and this year we are expecting that we will achieve. Last year we achieved 5% blending rate, and this year we are going to achieve 8.5% blending rate. Next year we are very sure that we will achieve the 10% blending target. That was the original target. With the initially it was targeted that we will achieve the 20% blending by 2030. But now, seeing the various possibilities in this sector and seeing the various benefits from this sector, government has decided to prepone this date, and we are working hard to achieve the 20% blending target by 2025 itself. Government, especially Department of Food and Public Distribution, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Ministry of Environment and Forest, are working in tandem to achieve this mammoth task. As you can appreciate this thing, that initially we were planning to achieve 20% blending target by 2030. Now we are shifting this, we are advancing this by 5 years, and we are setting the target of achieving this by 2025 itself. So it involves mammoth task on the part of ministries, different ministries, departments, and the state governments as well. So if you see from the Department of Food and Public Distribution perspective, if you see, we launched various schemes. In the 2018-19, if you see the data, we launched a scheme on ethanol interest subvention schemes, various times, 3-4 times. And in those schemes, we sanctioned 368 applications of involving 602 crore liters. So out of this, 31 projects have already been completed, and 102 crore liter of capacity has already been added. And it is we are hoping that 93 crore liter of capacity will be added by the March 2022. We brought one more scheme on 1G ethanol. Achievement, we need 900 crore liter of ethanol actually. So we are seeking cooperation of all the distilleries and entrepreneurs in India to take this opportunity, to take advantage of this opportunity, because if you see from the business point of view, from the commercial point of view, this is very lucrative prospect, because Ministry of Petroleum or OMCs are giving assurance that they will purchase whatever ethanol is being produced for 5 years. So there is an assured buyer. Assured, you don't need to go for customers. You don't. So there is an assured market for this thing. When there is an assured market, government is setting very remunerative, because this is also not the ethanol prices. Ethanol prices are set up by government. So we are setting very lucrative prices of ethanol, and for B heavy, for C heavy, even for rice, we are providing rice at the rate of 20 rupees per kg, whatever surplus rice is available with FCI. So we are exhorting the industry to come forward, take opportunity of this rupees 1 lakh crore of industry. So by 2025, around only sugar mills will sell to 700 crore liter of ethanol. That is more than 1.4 lakh crore of turnover. So it is going to be a huge industry, and it will create enormous opportunities for employment in India. This will bring huge investment, and this will also make us Atmanirbhar in fuel. And this is as everybody knows, this is a green fuel, this is a renewable fuel. So all the other benefits will automatically come. So I can only say, as a representative of line ministry who is dealing with ethanol, I can invite all the participants to tell us if there is any difficulty. We will trying to sort out all the difficulties with all the with all the ministries and departments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your opening remarks and valuable insight. I would now like to introduce our moderator for today's session, Sri Ramakrishna YB. His journey on environment protection and alternative energy started in 1986, and he is now completely devoted to bioenergy program in general and biofuels in particular. He has been instrumental in starting the biofuels program in Karnataka and now playing a key role at the national level in promoting biofuels and bioenergy. To name a few, he is a member expert of the working group on biofuels, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. He is a member of the Apex Committee on Methanol Economy at Niti Aayog and the Chairman Task Force on Methanol Dimethyl Ether Production from Biomass Municipal Solid Waste other than coal at Niti Aayog. Sir, you may please take over. So you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Prasanna Mishra, for that introduction and for having invited me to be the moderator in today's program. As rightly pointed out by Mr. Vivek Shukla, the ethanol blending program in the recent past was started in 2003. But our first initiative in the country of blending ethanol was way back in 1943-44. when we sold what we call as power petrol in the city of Mumbai, where 20% of ethanol was blended in petrol during the Second World War. So our initiative on ethanol blending, dates back to that long, and he's very right that in the last couple of decades, the essentially the ethanol program was driven from the molasses, and the new policy has broad-based the feedstock that can be used for production of ethanol, and also multiple different technologies. Apart from just the first generation, we are talking about second generation, and also the gas fermentation technology, which can probably be called as third generation technology. So we have multiple approaches through which we are trying to augment the availability of ethanol for our blending program. As rightly pointed out, we are talking about advancing the 20% by 2025, 2030. And when we do that, our estimate shows that by 2025-26, we will be producing something like 12 billion liters of ethanol. Probably, when we achieve that kind of a number, he did mention that we are number 5 in ethanol production, and probably by 25-26, we will be number 1 or number 2 in terms of the sheer volume of ethanol that we are going to be producing in this country. So this ethanol program has been quite a long journey with lots of ups and downs that we have seen. Apart from using ethanol for our fuel program, ethanol is also being used in industrial application as well as for as pure alcohol for our liquor industry also. So we have quite a few speakers, and in while we are trying to address some of the new targets that we have, and when we are trying to bring in the huge investment into this sector, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Shukla, we have a certain policy framework that has been created, trying to create a kind of an ecosystem which would attract investment. But we do have speakers from the industry who will be able to throw light on some of the challenges that we have faced, and the kind of the hurdles and bottlenecks that the industry may still be facing, which needs to be addressed as we move forward to see that this becomes a very smooth program and could become a model for the rest of the world. Now, when we talk about the ethanol, whether it is first generation, and when we are talking about first generation ethanol itself, we are talking about producing it from molasses, sugarcane juice, B molasses, C molasses, and also sugar syrup. So when you're talking about different such feedstock, the first generation technology itself needs to be tweaked, and in order to fully utilize the potential that is there, further investment is really required in this sector. Second generation ethanol itself has challenges of scaling. We have, because these technologies have been demonstrated at 10 or 12 tons at this point of time. If you look at the Indian technologies are concerned, we need to demonstrate them at much higher scale. So you have challenges, technological challenges. You have challenges of capex and operating expenses, which needs to be brought down, and it has to be brought on par with the first generation, ethanol. And again, we are also talking about the gas fermentation route. While the opportunities in terms of tail end gas from refineries and the steel mills are concerned is quite limited. But as we move forward, there is quite a bit of different types of agricultural residues which cannot be used for second generation ethanol or for biogas generation, which is solid biomass, hard biomass, which can go for the gasification route. And once you have the syngas, it can be fermented to get ethanol. So we have quite a few challenges and opportunities here. We need to address on that. And as I said, when we start getting more and more ethanol, we had to think in terms of kind of an ecosystem that has been there in Brazil, where they do 27% blending, and they also sell E100 side by side. And you have flexi engines, and where they will be able to use whatever blends that it is left to the customer choice. So that is one possibility. There are other usages for ethanol apart from the industrial use. As fuel itself, apart from blending in gasoline or using it as a standalone fuel, it can also be blended with diesel. This is some experiments that have been done, and I am sure that one of the speakers is going to be talking about it. And there are opportunities where ethanol can also be converted into biojet fuel. And there is a huge opportunity for us, as rightly pointed out by Dr. Mr. Shukla. The market demand is huge. We need to do a lot with regard to supply, and all the kind of issues and hurdles that we have, we need to address it. So without taking too much of time, I would request the first speaker. We have Mr. G.K. Thakur, who is the director of ISMA, Indian Sugar Mills Association. So they have been representing the interests of several sugar mills in the country, and have been involved in this ethanol and ethanol blending program for quite some time now. It would be nice if Mr. Thakur can share with us on the ethanol journey and the kind of problems that are related to ethanol blending program, and what else needs to be done with regard to the initiative that have been taken by the government to ensure that it's a win-win situation for all of us. Over to you, Mr. Thakur.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishna. Thank you, Mr. Vivek Shukla ji, and good afternoon to everybody. I'm G.K. Thakur. I'm a Director Policy includes ethanol also. So I'm associated with ethanol since 2011. So it's a long journey for me with ethanol. So I can start with some historical facts that, as indicated by Mr. Shukla and Mr. Ramakrishna also, the government of India started the program way back in 2002-3. But due to lack of clarity or any clear policy with regard to ethanol, the program could not take off in any manner. Again, in 2007, the government reiterated its intention to go for the ethanol blending program, and it was mandated that 5% ethanol shall be blended with petrol across the country, except those in Northeast, Jammu and Kashmir and island states. But again, due to lack of policy and any clear pricing policy, the program again could not take off. Then in 2010, the then government fixed a provisional price of rupees 27 per liter for the procurement of ethanol. And at this price, during the year 2010-11 and 2011-12, ethanol was procured by the OMCs. And as the procurement of ethanol ranged between some percentage achieved was well below 2%, maybe 1.6, maybe 1.7%, that's all. After taking over the government in 2014, when the new government took over, they decided and to go for a fixed pricing policy, and they fixed a price for ethanol delivered at the depots depending upon the distance of the distillery and the depot of the OMCs, which give an initiative to the distilleries, and this changed the scenario. And during the year 2014-15, I can say that the supply of ethanol just went double, and the total offtake was around 67 crore liters during that year. After that, the government reiterated its program and fixed the sorry, and went away. Sorry, yeah, kept on fixing the price of ethanol year after year. It created confidence amongst the suppliers. And like Mr. Shukla indicated, last year we did supply 173 crore liters of ethanol. And year before last, the figure was 188 crore liters. The percentage of blending achieved last year was exactly 5%. And as of now, during the current year, the percentage has gone up to 6.6%. And we are sure that, as indicated by Mr. Shukla and as is the intention of the government, we can go up to 8.5% this year. So that way we can achieve 10% by 2022, and maybe we can go for 20% by 2025. But to achieve that target, there are some bottlenecks which can be identified. That number one, there is a lack of capacity of manufacturing of ethanol in the country, maybe from the molasses or grain-based, whatever it is. Secondly, the OMCs are not geared up for to handle such a huge volume of ethanol when it will be 10% blending. As per our estimation, the total quantity required shall be something around 1,000 crore liters of ethanol, which will be very difficult for the OMCs to handle. They are also going for creation of storage facilities at their depots, but the logistical problem is always there. If we go for this year they have contracted or finalized a total quantity of, say, 326 crore liters. But right from the beginning of the season, that is from December and January, they have started asking the suppliers to shift the quantities from one depot to far-flung depots, regions known to them only. After asking, they simply say that there is no requirement at the particular depot. So these are the problems, these are the bottlenecks, because for smooth supply, one has to be geared up to handle huge quantities of ethanol. So that is for the OMCs. They have to take a call on this. Regarding capacity, manufacturing capacity of ethanol, the government has definitely came out with some scheme, that is interest subvention scheme. The first scheme was announced in 2018, and since then total number of 368 projects have been approved by the Department of Food and Public Distribution. So today, as of date, there are 185 sugar mills having a capacity of 356 crore to manufacture ethanol. Besides the sugar mills, there are 46 standalone distilleries who have got a total capacity of 70 crore liters. So in totality, we have got a total capacity, installed capacity of 426 crore liters per annum for ethanol manufacturing. So after the 368 projects which have been approved by that, additional 600 crore liters capacity will also be there. So we are hopefully confident that we can achieve the target of, they should be geared up, their depots should be prepared. And number two, to cope up the situation at the moment, since ethanol is available and it is not being blended at 10% at so many depots or in many states, at least in the surplus states like UP, Maharashtra and Karnataka, the government may consider blending ethanol at.
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. The next speaker will be Mr. Vasudev Pride industry. Pride has been a leader in the provider of technology as far as the first generation ethanol as the second generation. They have sizable market share in the country, and it would be very nice if Mr. Joshi can focus on some of the feedstock related issues and the conversion challenges that are there with regard to the technology, and also talking about a little about the second generation and what needs to be done initiative from the industry in terms of the policy framework, what needs to be done in order to bring down the capex and operating expenses of second generation ethanol also. So over to you, Mr. Joshi. You need to unmute. Mr. Joshi, you have to unmute.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramakrishna ji. I have a small presentation to share. Is it visible, presentation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So there are many policy measures they have taken by government of India in last 6 years to boost this ethanol production. Mainly the national, it's all started from national biofuel policy about the ethanol blending, and now this 20% ethanol blending has been already advanced already. Also use of lignocellulosic biomass, this was a very important step, mainly to use the agricultural crop residues, also considering the overall environment impact because of the parali or paddy straw burning. So to address that, it was also useful. And the next important is allowing this additional feedstocks like sugarcane juice, syrup, surplus and damaged grains for production of ethanol, the part of enhancing the overall fuel ethanol production. Also, there is upward revision of price derived from B-heavy molasses plus sugar of efficient technology with multi-product options. And that is the key. So for that, so there are various basket of technologies which are available, mainly the hybrid fermentation technology, also the integrated incineration technology, considering the overall environmental aspects, and then for reduction of overall water footprint, the air-cooled heat exchangers, and to increase the dehydration capacity, existing dehydration capacity with a smallest modification, this maximal, that also helps in increasing the old plants to increase their capacity by 30%. And of course, mainly press mud or bagasse converting to the bio CNG. So this will change the overall economics of the existing sugar mills. So this is one of the scheme. This is integrated bioenergy complex at Indian Potash Limited, which is there. So here they have a 2,500 TCD sugar mill. From the gas, it is going to the mainly sugar boiler, and mainly for the distillery boiler, coal is used, and remaining mainly the high bricks concentrated syrup is used here. So mainly the steam and power for the project is mainly using all the spent wash. It is mainly done. So here you can produce 60 kiloliter per day of ethanol, and from the press mud and the excess bagasse, we are able to produce 10 ton per day of the compressed biogas. So here we are able to achieve a maximum production on B-heavy and syrup by use of the technological baskets we just shown. So such integrated bioenergy complex will improve the overall economics, and this will enhance the ethanol production. So mainly look at the variable cost of production and the gross margins. So currently, if any sugar mill, if they have a own C molasses, then with a cost of say 6,000 rupees a ton, the gross margins are roughly 15 rupees a liter.
If they purchase molasses at 8,000 from the outside, then these gross margins drop to the 9 liter. But from B heavy molasses, also from the syrup and also mainly the bio syrup, when we concentrate the syrup during the season and we use that syrup during the off season, that is called as a bio syrup. So that technology is also available to store that gross margins currently available. And this is one more important aspect, that when we have a combination of C molasses, B heavy, syrup and bio syrup, so if we have only C molasses, we can operate any sugar mill for a minimum days. But if we have the combination of B heavy, syrup and bio syrup, the 330 days operation is possible. And because of this option, that B heavy plus syrup plus bio syrup, this is option 4. There is a gross margin improvement for the promoter, and also there is a gross margin per ton of cane. There is a improvement with these various options, and you can get ethanol around the year. This is a very important step. So the interventions required for sugary feedstocks, mainly single window clearance with fast track approvals for like the environmental clearance and other clearances to go for these modifications and expansions. Also encouraging the escrow finance mechanism so that the overall payments also can be given to the bank from the OMCs, and remaining will come to the promoter. This will also enhance this overall project execution. Also following and movement of B heavy molasses, syrup and bio syrup for sugar industries, and encouraging 6 sugar units for conversion to the integrated bioenergy complex, which I explained just now, and allow alternate zero liquid discharge mechanism for non-molasses sugar streams. I think this could be some of the interventions. Similarly, for the grain-based plant, this is an existing conventional process which is available. So here also mainly improving the water footprint, energy footprint, and achieving the overall environmental norms to get the fuel grade alcohol. So that also is available. So for these grain-based projects, mainly formulating long-term policy for damaged or surplus grain, so that supply is sustainably available, so that there is an assurance to the promoters that I will get this supply for next 10 to 15 years, so that he can make the investment. Second, assured pricing and offtake for the DDGS, because this is one of the major byproduct, and the overall revenue and the returns are depending on the DDGS revenue. So for that also, some assured pricing and offtake, if that is there, that will help improve the confidence of the promoters. Create district level intermediate grain storage, handling and supply chain facilities for these projects, and intermediate ethanol storage and supply chain facilities to absorb demand supply gap, ensuring consistent operation of the fuel ethanol plants. I think these are few interventions which will be required. Similarly, for second generation ethanol in India, there is almost crop residue surplus is almost more than 178 million metric ton. Even if we use 40% of this surplus, it is possible to to produce almost 300 crore liter of ethanol from these surplus residues, which will cater to the almost 10% of ethanol blending target. So feedstock is available. Also, we have the technologies, and currently there are 3 projects which we are executing for OMCs from the rice straw. The plant capacity is 100 kiloliter per day, and these projects will get commissioned in 2022 and 2023. So once these projects they prove their the overall the operation and also the overall capex and opex, then further expansion will happen after this seeing and believing in this first batch of projects. There is one more important aspect that since now sugarcane bagasse is getting excess since the power export is now getting reduced. So many sugar mills, they have the excess bagasse. So that excess bagasse can be converted to the second generation ethanol. We call it as a bolt-on unit. So here you don't need any material handling or like rice straw and other thing. You need a complete logistic to collect the biomass. Here biomass is completely available, which is washed biomass, so that can be directly taken for the further processing. And the existing utilities from the distillery or sugar mill, they can be shared. So overall capex can be reduced, and the overall sugar, it will also support sugar mills to operate to supply ethanol around the year, in addition to the earlier juice and syrup what we discussed. So this is one more aspect which need to be considered. So few interventions for 2G ethanol, really declaring blending mandate and differential pricing for 2G ethanol. Actually, this is what is based on the Europe, where there is a renewable energy directive, there is a mandate, and also there is a double counting. So double counting as compared to the 1G price. So similar mechanism should be announced in India so that the projects will get finalized. Also, this viability gap funding, currently the mechanism which is available, it could be extended till year 2025 or first 25 plants. And currently, this VGF is not available for sugar mill attached bolt-on projects. So if that is there, it will also support. And a policy framework for incentive mechanism to encourage this usage of excess sugarcane bagasse instead of cogeneration of power. So this biomobility platform, which are saying,
Joshi, I wanted to conclude in about 1 minute.
Facility sustainable for decarbonization through the mainly circular bioeconomy, through 1G ethanol, 2G ethanol, and also what Mr. Ramakrishna said, that this ethanol can be also again blended in diesel. Ethanol also can be used for production of the jet fuel and also for the flex fuel vehicles. Thank you very much for patient listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joshi. And without wasting any more time, let us move on to the next speaker. We have Mr. Dr. Ramamurthy, who is the president of North Indian Sugarcane and Sugar Technologies Association. Going by his background, I think it will be nice if you can focus on some of the challenges that are there in the technology conversion technologies from different feedstuff that we are talking about, and what would be his advice to overcome that, and also with regard to any bottlenecks that he sees from his association, which needs to be looked into by government. Dr. Ramamurthy.
Thank you, sir, for letting me join this webinar in Udyog Manthan for Atmanirbhar Bharat. I'm going to give my presentation only for 7-8 minutes. Having heard Mr. Shuklaji and also Thakur and Ramakrishnan ji and your good self, I have to say something. When we are putting such huge targets, and we are also preponing the actual targets from 2030 to 2025. Now, no doubt, we need very huge amount of raw material, and that will come from sugarcane only. So my focus will be on sugarcane production maximum. So go ahead. Bioethanol resources. Here it is in 3 categories: sugar-based, starch-based, lignocellulosic base. Sugarcane, sugar beet, and sweet sorghum. They are having higher capacity to produce ethanol. Next. I have given here in the table potential of different crops for ethanol production. Sugarcane, as you see, has got the topmost potential of ethanol production per hectare, that is 5,600 liters per hectare. And that's why we focus on sugarcane only, because we know that we can very well cope up with the demand by supplying more sugar to the sugar factories as per their need. Uh, on an average, in the country, we are producing around about 30 million tons of sugar. And I hope 24 to 25 million tons are our domestic consumption. So about 6 million tons of sugar will be available for conversion to the ethanol or even for export. So what I am trying to say, that we have to see that sugar cane must be cultivated on a very large scale. So far, in India is having 5 million hectares of area sugarcane for the last many decades. Of course, a few lakh hectares less or more. So we have to see one thing, that the land is limited. We are not going to increase area under sugarcane. And therefore, we have to always look for increasing the yield per hectare so that we can get more and more sugarcane for supply to these sugar factories. Next. For productivity of sugarcane, I have to point out the in different states, and also the Sugarcane Breeding Institute of Coimbatore, who does it for the entire country. So they have conducted many researches, and for the last many decades, what has been found by them, they recommend every year what the best variety is. Therefore, in productivity of sugarcane, we have to see that best variety which is recommended for that area should be taken up. And drip irrigation is one point of water saving, and this saves water by about 30%. And you know, the sugarcane is the water guzzling crop, and it is also being said everywhere. I mean, Maharashtra, they have said that they will keep lesser area and will be doing it by drip irrigation water only, not like flow irrigation as we are doing in northern India. So that way, drip irrigation has also to be taken up in a wider scale, and use of biotechnology, because a lot of soil structure has already been spoiled by continuous use of the chemical fertilizers, and therefore we have to go for organic manures, and like green manuring, dhancha, and so many others, which will be making a good humus in the soil, that will be taking the soil fertility up. So, like that, seed treatment before sowing, MHAT, most higher, most hard, moist hard air treatment. This is the plant which has been developed much earlier in the Indian Institute of Sugarcane Research, Lucknow. So there is a particular temperature on which the seed must be treated, and then only if it is sown, then the disease of red rot will not be cropping up, because this year the recovery is coming little low in the central region as well as the eastern region of northern India, where the onset of this disease has reduced the sugar recovery. Though, of course, there are other factors for sugar recovery little less than last year, is that there has not been timely rains, and because sugar cane could get good tillering had it been getting the proper rain. Now, the trench method of sowing technique, this is also a method very well uh, taken up by so many states and very high yield. In fact, speaking, since 0238 is one variety which is from Coimbatore that has already taken a very good, say, place for growers as well as millers, because this has the sugar recovery as high as 11 to 12%, and productivity also from 60 tons per hectare to 80 tons per hectare. So I say that this has also to be looked into, and trash mulching is to conserve moisture. All these measures are produced. So these varieties are to be selected. In fact, speaking in UP, there is one cane development council for each and every sugar mill for its command area, where we are trying to have better growth of sugar cane. There may not be any shortage of sugar cane during the time of supply. Pricing of ethanol-based feedstock is this is in the table. This is very well known to all of you. Here, I like to say that in case we go more for sugarcane juice, then it will be more lucrative than B heavy and final molasses. But at present, B heavy and final molasses is also being taken up. But here one can be think of storing the B heavy molasses during the off season, and we can use it.
Dr. Amurthy Singh, can you conclude in 1 minute?
Yeah, doing it.
Okay. Right.
How much? Hello? Regulation of supply and marketing. Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
I couldn't follow.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Hello?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Not audible.
No, you are audible, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going ahead. I just it's only 2-3 minutes.
I think you have muted. Ramurthy Singh, you have to unmute.
Yes, sir. Some disturbance, sir?
No, there is no disturbance. Go ahead and.
Yeah, I'm going through. Sir, I'd like to invite your attention that the sugar, then they are tempted to grow more of sugar and also increase the yield per hectare. But in case there is arrears, then that will definitely cast shadow upon this. So what I am trying to say that we have to embark in the sugarcane purchase order 1954. So this is well-regulated industry. Here we cannot go in a state way for harvesting any of the plot of any grower unless it is in the calendaring system. So these are the problems which I am putting before you. My recommendations, which I have after seeing and discussing with people, to cater up 20% EBP, the states where sugarcane is not grown abundantly, ethanol plants of economic feasibility capacity be installed using feed of maize and grain units can be installed for ethanol production in the country. B heavy molasses and final molasses can be stored after closure of factory for use in the off season. Some allowing subsidy schemes can be launched for the units producing quality ethanol more than targets fixed for them, over capacity utilization in dual feed distilleries. Sir, I will also like to say that having heard both of you and having talked to some of my factories who are our members, they are saying that the government is kind enough to come forward for interest subvention for 5 years with 1 year moratorium. But the real difficulty which is coming before them is in the bank. The government has already said to the chief secretaries of the state to come forward for giving them the land which will be used for the project, and also they will be helping in getting the clearance from environment department. But the banking.
Sir, thank you, thank you. I think we will bring some of those issues during the
Yes.
discussion. I think we need to move on to the next speaker because we are short of
Alright.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah, during discussion we will take up
Right.
some issues. So our next speaker will be Mr. Anish Arora, who is the head of logistics from India Glycols Limited. In addition to some of the issues with regard to ethanol as a fuel, I would appreciate if you could also throw some light on ethanol that can be used for making other products like PET bottles and other chemicals. So his own experience he can share, and his own recommendations are most welcome. Mr. Anish Arora.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishnaji, for introducing me, and good afternoon to all the speakers, and thank you NBQP for arranging this webinar. As Mr. Ramakrishnaji said, I would like to speak on two aspects. Basically, one is ethanol as a base chemical for chemical industry, and secondly, initiatives required to increase ethanol production, and especially second generation ethanol.
There is some background noise. I don't know whether it is coming from Anish Arora's side or somebody else. Mr. Bhaskaran, can you put off your, can you go on mute, please? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Arora, you can continue.
Yeah, I would like to draw attention that ethanol is widely used in chemical industry to produce various performance chemicals, which goes into making PET chips, PET bottles, polyester films, agro, textile chemicals, construction chemicals, automotive, and it is also going to paint industry and printing industry, and the list is endless. Even I would say it touches chemical which are being made through ethanol are touching every human life. Directly or indirectly, we are all linked to this chain of chemical which are being produced through ethanol in India. And producing these chemicals through green route, which is ethanol, we are majorly reducing carbon footprint and helping environmental concerns. Today, the entire world is looking towards renewable, sustainable source for chemical feedstock and for energy. And ethanol, I would say, is the answer. The number which has been shared regarding ethanol availability in India, which presently is 222 crore liters, as against blending requirement of about 600 crore liters. And I would add, rather, the vision is the requirement of ethanol blending program to reach 20%.
Can the organizers just make sure that there is background noise is removed? There's so much of background noise.
Maybe 900 crores of liter requirement per year. If I add on to the chemical requirement, which
You have muted the speaker also. Anish Arora has been muted.
okay, yeah, I got it. So today, if I see the total requirement of even 10% or 8% is a 600 crores of liter required for ethanol blending, and additionally there is a requirement for chemical industry which is about 500 crores of liter. So in totality there is a market for 1100 crores liter currently available. If we increase the blending program to 20%, the requirement will hike up to 1500 crores of liter, which will be the requirement of India, and out of which today we are farly behind in our requirement and the production number. So there is a huge scope to produce ethanol from available sources. The time to invest in second generation ethanol plants and start manufacturing ethanol from whatever available resources we have. Like other speaker have said, the second generation ethanol, we are using straw, wheat, rice, maize, and using bagasse. I would say gases is also one of the solution which is already available, and it is tested that you can produce ethanol which is coming out from industrial units, steel plants, and today the technology is available for that. So we need, government should step up to promote ethanol from second generation plant and issue price labs and concession in the form of cheap land, bank loan, tax waivers, so that investment into these plants, the second generation plant, which can reduce the burden of requirement to a great extent and can be made lucrative, which will not only help in bridging the gap of short supply, but also help in utilizing waste and control production, pollution, and reduce carbon footprint. Carbon footprint is really a big concern, and everybody is in the world is looking towards reducing it. And this is the right time for India to invest in second generation ethanol plant and support there. Today, the irony is that even the available production capacity of 223 crores of liter, ethanol supplies are to the tune of 170 crores liter. So if we see as against production and supply, there is a shortfall of supply of 22%. The available capacities even not being properly supplied to the required OMCs, which are using ethanol for blending purpose. So this 22% even itself is a great area to look upon. We must look into the reason and try to achieve 100% supply target of available production at least, and which can be easily done. We must look on the solution, maybe of one, I would suggest, tender process to be made easy, by which allocation of ethanol supply can be given, can be done by OMC rather than every unit is giving their own supply requirement and choosing the location. You know, choosing the location, you end up either having higher orders in your hand, or maybe you are losing out the orders as against your capacity in hand. So you need a tremendous change in tendering process. And we can also look for supplying directly to this refinery as against OMC, because OMCs are having limitations of storage. And if you see state-wise availability of ethanol or blending program, some states have reached to 9 to 10% of blending, whereas some states are even less than 1% of blending program, because southern states and eastern states where the distilleries are not there, nobody is ready to supply ethanol to these states. So we really look into the options whereby this distribution can be equally done, so that every state gets reasonable share, and overall we get the good share of supply, and we supply available source which is available in India. So underutilizing, low consumption issue will get sorted out if we look upon either of these solutions, or maybe any solution which our industry can sit and discuss to come and give a reform into it. And government must look into removing state permissions, which is also a bottleneck in getting permission and supplying ethanol to OMC. Maybe 15, 20 days of a month just to go waste in taking all those permissions and formalities of excise. And I would say excise fee should be fully removed from ethanol. There are few states still applying excise fees of ethanol, and it should get removed totally, so that there is a free movement of ethanol by the unit to each and every state. And we need to support standalone distilleries. I think there are 70 crores of liters being produced by standalone distilleries. And today we need to get a support for a regular supply of molasses, and that too at a reasonable price, so that these distilleries which are standalone can get their share of molasses and at a reasonable prices, because ethanol price is fixed. If the price of molasses increase after a range, then there is no viability of the distillery to produce and to supply. So we need to tap price of molasses also, so that these standalone distilleries can get supply of molasses, and that at a price which is making them viable to produce and supply ethanol. So, making it short, I would like to end my submission here and would like Mr. Ramakrishnan to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Anish Arora. Our next speaker would be Dr. C.V. Rode from, he's the Chemical Engineering and Process Development Division of National Chemical Laboratory in Pune. Dr. Rode, for your inputs.
Yes, thank you very much. And I have some few slides to be presented. So I will just start with this. Having set the backdrop of very ambitious EBP, there is definitely a great challenge for production of ethanol in big quantities. And my previous speaker also highlighted the need of this ethanol as a base chemical. So that puts the additional burden on ethanol production, like to the tune of 1,500 crore liters envisaged. And now the sugarcane alone, or the sugarcane juice, or even the syrup cannot meet this demand. And rightly, the emphasis by the government is on the 2G ethanol. So even the at CSR laboratories, this I come from a research institute, and I will present some of the recent work on what has been done in this direction. So as all of us are knowing or aware of the fact that ethanol, bioethanol can be produced apart from first generation. I am talking about the second generation bioethanol, lignocellulosic waste, and then of course from other biodiesel production, which glycerol is a co-product. So glycerol also can be fermented to make ethanol. And the third option is, of course, the moderator, Mr. Ramakrishna ji, also had emphasized from the syngas. So from the biogas or the biomass residue to make syngas and then ethanol. But just today I will just focus on this bioethanol from the agro waste or the other forest waste. Now here the major challenge is actually the lignocellulose pretreatment and detoxification or delignification, followed by hydrolysis and then fermentation, purification to get the ethanol. Now here another issue is actually, if you see this biomass, now the ethanol comes from the fermentation of cellulose, C6 sugars, which is called 2G ethanol, and about 500 grams of cellulose typically gives 250 grams of bioethanol. Now, while doing so, the hemicelluloses or the pentoses are untouched, and whether we can process these pentoses to a very value-added array of chemicals, which can give the incentive for the process economics of 2G ethanol. So that's what I will also dwell upon this issue also. And as you can see here in this slide, the rice straw, for example, the work was done in several of the CSR labs, and the strategy was different labs were carrying out different the work on different aspects, and the intention was to have the integration of such processes or technologies in various CSR labs to improve technical feasibility and all the relevant unit operations. And about 9 labs were involved in this program. This program was undertaken in 2018, and it was just going on till last year before the pandemic started. And then this operating the bioethanol plant, and as well as the all byproducts which are valuable, and waste valorization was the major aim. Then zero liquid discharge, effluent management system with water recycle, and techno-economic evaluation and life cycle assessment. So these were the some of the important aspects which we are focused on in this program. So here at CSR NCL, as far as CSR NCL is concerned, the capabilities and expertise were on the enzyme hydrolysis. Our biotech group or the biological sciences group, they were focusing on enzyme hydrolysis to C6 sugars to bioethanol, and they had an improved microbial strain available for enzyme production. The enzyme complex produced by this strain hydrolyzes the pre-treated biomass. For example, the sorghum was taken at high concentration to the tune of 15% with 70% efficiency. And this group mainly was, helped by the other groups from NIST, Trivandrum, and some other groups from IICT Hyderabad also. And right now the experiments at pilot level also are being continued at NIST Trivandrum. Then the second aspect, as I highlighted in my first slide, was xylose to furfural and further valorization. So in my own research group, we had this optimization of the chemocatalytic route done on lab scale. So that I will show in the next slide also. Then another part was lignin valorization, whether because all these aspects they contribute to the process economics, reducing the process cost of the production of the bioethanol. So all these aspects were considered. And lignin valorization, one of my other colleagues in NCL, he was concentrating on this lignin mapping, characterization, and identifying technical challenges in covering pure lignin, recovering pure lignin, and utilization of other biomass components and ash. And then another of my colleagues here in chemical engineering division, he focused on wastewater treatment scheme formulated with a biogas yield of 0.46 liters per gram and COD greater than 95% COD reduction with efficient recovery of process grade water that could be recycled around 7 to 8 rupees per liter of ethanol produced. So now coming to this C5 component, which is being discarded when the fermentation is carried out to get the bioethanol from this cellulose, and whether we can utilize it for making the chemicals like furfural. So furfural is one of the chemicals which normally or the conventionally also is made from the agro waste like rice husk or wheat straw and corn cobs and etc. By acid digestion. The conventional route uses the mineral acid which has its own drawbacks. Now we had a process developed at NCL at fairly a large scale, and where the initially corn cobs were used as a biomass waste to get this furfural using organic acid. And in this particular picture, I have shown the economics for furfural production using the liquor discarded during bioethanol production, which was procured from one of the sugar mills near Pune district in Kopargaon. And economics for 1 kg of furfural production from C5 liquid is worked out here. Now here the particular organic acid which is used for the digestion, the chemistry goes like that. This acid is regenerated. It is only the first time utilization of the acid up to the tune of 4 to 6% initial charging, and then it gets recovered during the process. And if you see below here, the initial costing is 250 rupees per kg. RMC based, these are RMC based calculation, but if you give the credit for the cost of recovered acid, which is about 214 rupees, so the final cost of this furfural production comes to 68 rupees per kg, whereas the furfural selling price is more than 100 rupees, 130 rupees. And right now in India, although there were several plants being established to produce furfural, most of them have shut down because of the commercial aspects considered, because they were only concentrating on furfural, whereas we have a strategy not only to produce furfural, downstream products which are more value added, and these are also used as fuel additives, or in fact some are used as a second generation fuel also in countries abroad, and so they fetch a very lucrative value. And therefore this will be an integrated sort of complex, and this development has at a very advanced stage. Some of these products or the processes has been tested at higher scale, like 5 liter scale and all that, whatever capacity we have at NCL. And we look for the intervention of the industries, because in one of the previous speakers has highlighted how much the government has given the thrust in terms of the soft loans given to the sugar mills and all. So whether such industries can have the intervention to fund such projects, because these are definitely going to be very attractive. Most of these products are being imported at present in India, and this bioethanol actually should be looked upon as a biorefinery, where you produce the fuel as well as the very value-added chemicals, which are possible only from agro waste. For example, furfural cannot be made from fossil fuel or the mineral oil. So that is the unique feature of this particular biorefinery, where you have the production of bioethanol, furfural, and downstream processes to get such products, value-added products. So key challenges and path forward, I would just like to conclude my talk with this: pretreatment cost reduction with maximum lignin removal. And at present, there are several options available, right from the enzymatic, chemical, and physical methods. And steam at highest efficiencies is supposed to be the one of the best methods to have the pretreatment cost reductions with maximum lignin removal. Then enzyme production using pretreated biomass as cellulose source. Now efforts are also ongoing at NCL itself and a few other labs of CSR labs. Then membrane technology for enzyme concentration. So trials at minimum 50-liter scale are being planned for this. So this could be, because at present for 2G ethanol, the enzyme right now is being imported at a very high cost, and it is one-time use. So the cost, the main cost center for this 2G ethanol is the enzyme cost itself. And then value addition of C5 sugar, as I highlighted in my previous slide, scale up and technical evaluation is required, and techno-commercial evaluation of effluent management. So because large amount of water which is being discarded, so whether it can be recycled back as a process water, and it is possible. One of our groups at NCL has already shown that. Then byproducts like biogas and distillation residues, solids, to be evaluated, which will give the incentive to total process cost in order to reduce the 2G ethanol cost. Then potential of lignin separation, characterization and mapping technologies, processes for valorization. And in order to do that, then again there should be a very improved pretreatment process for this biomass, which will reduce the carbohydrate content in the residue, and therefore the lignin separation becomes easier. Developing new processes, new membrane processes is one of the challenges, because ethanol comes as a very dilute solution with water, and water removal is the cost intensive factor vis-a-vis existing membrane. At CSMCR, again the CSR lab at Bhavnagar, they have developed a membrane. Here again the membranes which are traditionally or conventionally commercially used are imported ones. So in order to have the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the emphasis by CSR and even the other ministries have laid on developing the indigenous technologies for several of these processes or unit operations being required in making the 2G ethanol. So one of them is this membrane development at CSMCRI, where for the ethanol separation, and this is being evaluated vis-a-vis existing membrane. And completion of data generation also was ongoing for this life cycle assessment. Solid waste conversion, so biomass pellets from distillate residue. So this is another option being looked upon as. So with this I will be ready to take up any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rode. And I think we have two more speakers, and we need to have some discussions on this topic. Quite a few issues have come up. We have the next speaker in Dr. S.S. Tipse, is a Senior Deputy Director at Automobile Research Association of India in Pune. It's over to you, Dr. Tipse.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'll try to be as brief in my presentation and the discussion. ARAI is the certification agency for vehicles in India, and we have been closely working with the ethanol program right from the year 2000 onwards. The ARAI started with E5 first, as in India, first the 5% blend of petrol was evaluated, and it was found that it was perfectly acceptable to all the vehicles, and so E5 was first introduced. The report was given by ARAI to the ministry. Followed that, we started working on E10. So E10 also was another study which we jointly did with Indian Oil Corporation, and it was observed that E10 also was more or less satisfactory in terms of performance. However, slight deterioration on some materials was observed, but that was acceptable. So we went ahead with E10. After that, we started working on E20. So we conducted a big study with Indian Oil Corporation, IIP and ARAI together on a E20 vehicles. and in that also we observed very good results. However, the rubber parts or the elastomeric materials had to be changed as far as the study was concerned. So now actively in India, E20 is being considered for ethanol blending, and it is a big step towards introducing ethanol in the superstructure of fuels. As far as the standard and regulation goes, ARI has been always contributing. We were part of the BIS committee in terms of framing the standards for E20, E85, E95, and E100. I think there's already an annexure with all the standard numbers there. And as far as the regulations go, ARI has been instrumental in providing the draft regulations to the ministry, particularly the GSR 757 for E20, which has come out, also the GSR 682 for the E85, E95, and other technologies. We have also started a lot of work on the different additives. We are closely working with Niti Aayog for methanol program also. We did work on M3 and M15. And today I'll slightly take a few minutes to discuss the landmark work on e-diesel, that is diesel blending with ethanol. So I would like to show some slides for the e-diesel work. I will quickly go through these slides. That is a unique work which we have done at ARI. So I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. So what we did in this study is we wanted to work with the feasibility of ethanol with diesel. So we started with working on the different aspects of blending diesel with ethanol, because ethanol traditionally has always been blended with gasoline. But diesel, there is a huge potential for ethanol blending. And the reason is diesel is the technology which is facing a lot of issues with respect to emission, and lot of dependence on the after treatment is there. In this case, if we use ethanol as a blend, then definitely it is going to help in terms of the emissions. So this was the basis of the work which we started. And I must say the chairman, Mr. Ramkrishna, was very supportive of this work. And overall, if we analyze the situation in India, the diesel consumption is increasing around 4% every year, and it is continuing to rise. The price rise is also a concern as far as diesel is concerned. Now, as far as the retail use is concerned, diesel mostly is used for heavy duty vehicles, but also there are a lot of other applications such as pump set, agri sets, and others, mobile towers and other things. So this is a significant contributor, and that is putting a drag on the oil consumption for India is concerned. So coming for that, we further went ahead and we framed a roadmap for the work. And we started first with preparing a stable diesel ethanol blend. The first issue with diesel ethanol is there is phase separation because of hygroscopic nature of ethanol. And because of that, we wanted to develop an additive, indigenous additive, which will help to have a stable blend. So that was the first work which we did. And based on that work, we kind of successfully an additive for Indian conditions, which was also in terms of hydrophilic, oxidation enhancing, and lubrication agent. And together we developed a domestic additive which was used in India. And this was the first time it was for first of its kind additive developed in India, which was used for this particular work. So this is a video of the blend preparation, and we were able to get a very good result with this. We got a very clear solution. Otherwise, you used to get an immiscible solution. We also checked the fuel properties with the e-diesel, and we found that most of the properties were in line with the commercial diesel. In fact, some of the properties were even better. And in terms of sulfur content, actually, it was lower than the commercial diesel, which is a good sign. And the C10 number was slightly higher. So that was also a good sign. The fuel formulation was tested on the engine test bench. Also, a vehicle evaluation was done using a bus given to us by the MSRTC. Extensive work was done, and these are the emission results which we obtained in this study. So you can clearly see that the carbon monoxide is decreasing almost 50 by 25%, 40%. So this was very significant because this is very important for an in-use diesel bus. If we are able to use this technology, it will definitely help to reduce pollution from these kind of vehicles. And that is a significant achievement of this particular project. So based on this, now what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are also planning to do a phase 2 trial on a total fleet of vehicles. So that work is being supported by the CST and the Ministry of Petroleum. And overall, we found that the 7.7% blend was very optimum. This agreed in line with international literature. There were quite some parties who worked on this internationally, but in India, we were very able to successfully replicate those results. And with that, I thank the organizers for giving me a chance to speak here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tipse. And the last speaker for the day will be Mr. Sandeep Deshpande. He's the Executive Vice President, Inspection Services of TUV India Private Limited. So, he's going to be talking on the quality and productivity enhancement in ethanol sector. Over to you, Mr. Sandeep Deshpande.
Good evening.
Yes.
You can hear me, I suppose. Yeah. Good evening to all. Good evening to all the listeners and the speakers. Yes, I will be speaking on this in a brief. I think we are a little bit overshot the time, but a lot of good inputs from all the speakers and on the similar topics. But I am from TUV India. We are doing the independent technical testing, inspection, and certification across diverse industries, including oil and gas, chemicals, aerospace, and many others. So we are working with many of the industries in the ethanol 1G sector like Praj, Tomsa, etc., as well as 2G projects for NRL, BPCL, etc. So coming to this, of course, we need a rapid growth for the ethanol because it's a big export substitute for the oil and gas. 85% of our crude oil and gas come from imports. But there are challenges, and the government has been a good strategy. There has been some progress, as mentioned, in the last 6 years. But there are issues which could be addressed mainly through higher productivity and availability of relevant farm produce. So sugarcane is very promising, but there are limitations there in terms of high water consumption, even with all drip irrigation, etc. It being an inherently water guzzling crop, and India has only so much of fresh water withdrawal available, all as India as a whole. So alternate crops also need to be considered. And there are a lot of productivity gains across the countries in these other crops also, like maize and others. So those need to be looked at. And of course, somebody mentioned about sweet beet, etc., which are also high yielding ethanol yields. So looking at crops with high productivity, with biotechnology and other higher yielding variety selection using international and national research. And of course, the waste also needs to be looked at because that will also contribute, which is not being used otherwise productively. The bio waste can be looked at. So people are talking about bamboo and rice husk and other things. So of course, farm growth and farm produce needs to be available. But ultimately, the cost of that ethanol, we're talking about 60 rupees and 62 rupees currently, I believe. It adds to a high cost of the fuel also. So all this productivity needs to go in to make sure that the cost also is a bit lower, so that the fuel costs are more, more sellable basically in the market. And then the higher usage of the ethanol can be really useful in this regard. So cost is a major factor which needs to be considered by all the technologists and the sector. And as the sector grows and expands, with more and more public and private players coming in because of the scale, we're talking about 4 or 5 times from today, the scale of growth in next 5 years. The regulatory framework, as mentioned by the ARAI representative, is there, but probably needs to be upgraded and enhanced, and some kind of privatization there also, so that the quality systems and the provisions for ensuring the right products are going to the right place, right from the engineering stage right up to the commissioning and then the supply of the ethanol to the plants and how the plants are performing. All those areas need to have some kind of independent controls so that the objectives of the whole program, ethanol program, are really achieved throughout the country, and country is able to get the benefit out of this entire program. So, and we are here to support this industry, and definitely with our network of engineers and technicians around the country, we can support for the testing and inspections throughout, including right from engineering to up to the final stage of delivery of the product. So that's in a nutshell, I would say what I wanted to say. on this, and we look forward to any questions, if any. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sandeep Deshpande. I think, we are quite well on time, and there will be some time for us for discussions. I don't see any questions being raised in the chat box. If there is something, you can bring it to my attention, Mr. Amit Singh. I don't see any questions there, but I think it's an opportunity for some kind of cross questioning between the panelists. So, if any panelist has any specific question or any observation that you have made on some of the presentations that have been made, I would suggest that you can quickly react. I don't want you to be really taking too long in explaining things. Within a minute or minute and a half, you can either raise a question or present your views based on the discussions or observations that have been made.
So if I may, just since I'm still on mute,
Yeah.
so the water consumption is a key thing which needs to be looked at. Of course, all the industry stalwarts are here. Maybe somebody would like to respond on that point.
Yeah, I think both from Paraj Industry as well as from NCL, Dr. Rode, they have been doing some work with regard to zero liquid discharge and reducing the water consumption. Definitely some inputs from them will be ideal.
Yeah, it's a very what you can say, very a key, one of the key challenges which I already had mentioned in my presentation. And this recycle of this water is being streamlined in our laboratory, developed the process also, and it is possible to have this water which is being not in the sugarcane growing. I am talking about the 2G ethanol production. Okay. So as far as the crop, I mean the sugarcane as a crop is concerned and the water consumption there, I may not be the right person to comment on that. Maybe Ramurthy Singh has already commented on that, but you have a comment that in spite of the drip irrigation, the water consumption is a lot, and that is true actually. Several of the experts have reviewed this topic and have commented on sugarcane. That's why I emphasized on 2G ethanol, which the feedstock is the bio waste, biomass waste or the agro waste or the forest waste, which could be the right feedstock for making 2G ethanol to meet the ambitious program of EBP. So maybe Mr. Vasudev Doshi Praj may have some comment on this.
Yeah, so during my presentation, I covered two aspects. Mainly the use of air-cooled heat exchangers, which has been already started now the distilleries, and second is maximizing the recycle of the effluent. So instead of using the fresh water in the fermentation, what I explained about the high brix fermentation, so there we are maximizing the recycle of the wastewater streams to minimize the overall freshwater consumption. So overall, the current mainly focus is on, and also the overall energy, that is steam consumption reduction, so that if I reduce my overall energy consumption, automatically the water consumption also comes down. So mainly integrating the various sections as far as the energy is concerned to minimize overall energy so that the water consumption. These are the 2-3 aspects where we are working.
Yeah. Dr. Ramurthy Singh did mention about reducing the water consumption when it comes to sugarcane. And there was another question that was also raised by Mr. Deshpande with regard to alternate crops. I believe that, we have something to learn from Brazilians, where they have developed the energy cane, which consumes much less water compared to regular cane. And it is ideal for not only sugar production but also for second generation ethanol. Similarly, we have done a lot of work within India from Indian Institute of Millet Research on and also ICRISAT together on varieties of sweet sorghum, which will be ideal, which consumes, I would say, about 20-30% of water that sugarcane consumes. But in terms of both sugar as well as for 2G, they will be alternate crops. Your comments on that, Mr. Ramurthy Singh?
Yes, sir. I had given in the slide that some recommendations which are given by the regional sugarcane research institutes must be taken up, and the areas where the drip irrigation has been taken up, lot of conservation of water has been. So because the emphasis is on this, so I attracted your attention. And for this, there is subsidy also. And I think this we have to take up with the ministries, the agriculture ministry, which is concerned with this, because sugarcane comes in agriculture ministry. And also, I would like to invite your attention on one point. One of my members of this association asked me the 14 January circular you have issued, in which you have said that the chief secretaries have been asked to ask the district magistrates to provide land for the project, new projects if they are coming up. And also they will get the clearance from environment department. But he was saying that the real problem which comes, it is for clearance from the banks, because subvention of interest for 5 years, in which 1 year moratorium is also there, can all be availed only when the banks come forward, because banks are not. So that way, I'd like to say that the finance department could be moved for issuing a circular on this point.
Yeah, point well taken. Yeah,
Intervene.
Dr.
Just a comment on this water required for this sugarcane crop growing. Recently, I just read an article. I just remembered the grey water, okay, from the municipal waste or sanitization after processing, that can be used for this cultivation processes. I mean, cultivation of the various crops, including sugarcane. So that is one solution. Another comment was actually the membrane separation technology for ethanol water, so that it can reduce the energy requirement for separation. And just I have one question for Mr. Vasudev Doshi of Praj regarding second generation ethanol. He mentioned that 12 plants have been, approved and 4 are going to be operated. I just have a question on the enzyme. This is being indigenous enzyme or being imported, or what? Can you comment on this?
Yeah, so currently both the options have been evaluated. So there are in the Bangalore-based company. So by the time these plants get operated, both the options will be available for the promoters.
Thank you.
I want to quickly respond to one or two issues. I am Vivek Shukla, Director Sugar. Am I audible?
Yes.
Actually, I want to quickly respond on few issues. What Mr. Thakur initially flagged the issue of handling of ethanol at OMCs. So I just want to give assurance to him that we are in touch with OMCs and we are regularly meeting at JS level and secretary level, even minister level, to sort out all these issues. But you should also appreciate that the whole ethanol production capacity, this whole ethanol production capacity is centralized in 3 states only. And whereas we have to blend the ethanol in the whole of India, so problems may arise, but sooner or later we will overcome all these problems. I can assure you this thing. Number 2, tankage capacity. So far, tankage capacity is concerned, OMCs are already doing their work and they are enhancing, augmenting their tankage capacities. As far as 15% blending, the issue of 15% blending in UP, Karnataka and all these states are concerned, I think there are some technical issues, and I don't think myself to be competent enough to say anything on that, but it depends on the calibration and all those things of the technology and vehicle, which are produced before 2008 and or will be produced. So all these things, but a committee has already been set up in the Niti Aayog. They are looking into all these aspects, and they are also exploring the possibility of going for 15%, 20%, and how to reach 15% and 20%. So government is totally aware of all these issues. The second issue, which I want to briefly touch, this is regarding Mr. Ramurthy Singh also mentioned, and two few other speakers also mentioned regarding this financing of ethanol projects. So we have devised a third party, a TPA. State Bank of India has already issued that TPA. In that TPA, OMCs, the distilleries, and the bank is signing an agreement, and the whole proceed will go into a escrow account, and then a similar type of TPAs are being arranged with all other banks. We are in touch with DFS. We are also coming up. We are impressing upon DFS to come up with the similar type of TPA for grain-based distilleries, because this TPA is for only sugar mills. So I want to assure Mr. Thakur and all the other speakers that government is doing work.
One issue that needs to be resolved. Second issue is with regard to the grains. You did mention that these grains are going to be offered at about 20 rupees or something like that. I believe that some interaction with the grain-based distilleries is really required, and probably a more robust method of giving these grains over a period of at least 5-10 years, some kind of guarantees, and a new mechanism as far as the pricing of the grain is concerned probably is required, because in my interactions with the people, I get different feedback from them. So some area where some focus is required.
So far the second issue was the grain. Already we have said we will upload this thing on our website also, that ample availability of rice. I am talking about only FCI, rice available with FCI, not grains. So ample rice is available with FCI for 5 years, at least for 5 years. So there is no issue of availability of rice. And so far this price mechanism is concerned of ethanol from rice, that we can means this process is evolving. It is just very nascent stage. So we will evolve on this also, and your concerns, and we have noted down all those things.
Yep. Any other speaker has any other question?
So we have few questions posted in the chat box.
Yeah, can you just read that out, please?
Sure. So what are the key improvements that ethanol producers can bring towards quality in this sector?
Who would like to take that question?
So is it the ethanol, the ethanol quality itself, or it is the quality of the overall plant and machinery? This question, because if it is an ethanol quality, then is ethanol, it is all as per the IS specification, and it is tested mainly its moisture content, its methanol content, and so unless it is as per so mainly it is tested on GC, and once that specifications are achieved as per IS, then only it is supplied to the oil marketing companies. And to avoid any moisture ingress, maybe all the storage tanks, they are provided with the silica gel and this thing, so that the outside moisture should not get ingressed with the ethanol. I think these are the cares which are taken by the ethanol producers.
There is another question with regard to the startup. What licenses and permissions are required for starting for the startup? And does Government of India provide incentive and subsidies, etc., for training and for new startups? So anybody can just quickly respond to that.
Mainly the permissions.
Interest subvention scheme. So far, interest subvention scheme is concerned, All the entrepreneurs are very much welcome. They just have to register themselves on our portal, that is sugarethanol.nic.in, and then we will process as per procedure. So that is not an issue. Anybody can register himself or herself.
So the major approvals, one is the environmental clearance, mainly consent to establish and consent to operate, which is the for any ethanol plant, that is the main thing. And second is the excise license. These are two important licenses. Remaining all are as per the Factory Establishment Act, whatever permissions are required. But these two, mainly the environmental clearance and excise, these two are the most critical one.
I think if there are no further questions, I would like to quickly take a few minutes to just sum up the presentations. We have had excellent presentations from 8 speakers today, and the opening remarks from Mr. Shukla from the Line Ministry. So he has explained what are all the kind of new initiatives from the government for augmenting the ethanol supply and the new policy and the new ecosystem that is being developed in the country. And then we had Mr. Thakur, who was able to recount the kind of ethanol journey that we had, and he has brought out some of the issues that are there, which have, I think, been answered by Mr. Shukla also. Is basically talking about the lack of capacity which needs to be enhanced. He also talked about OMC not getting up to handle the volumes part of it. Then, the logistics, there are logistics issues that he brought out and things like that. Then we had Vasudhai Joshi talking about the policy on 2G, which is a welcome thing as far as the industry is concerned. He talked about the differential pricing policy, the soft loans being extended, VGF for the second generation, etc. And then he touched upon various feedstock like C molasses, B molasses, juice, syrup, stored syrup, etc. And talked about the OPEX and CAPEX optimization possibilities. He also touched upon looking at reducing the footprint on water consumption, energy consumption, and reducing the carbon footprint as such. And he also talked about the integrated bioenergy complex concept. Then he's also touched upon variable cost of production and gross margin part of it. And then by different feedstocks, how the operational days can be extended up to 330 days in a year. So he talked about fast track approvals, escrow financing, and then converting 6 sugar industries into biorefineries and things like that. And he has his own recommendations for the grain-based plant. He wanted long-term availability of the feedstock, assured price and DDGS offtake, where some reforms are really required. 3 or 4 plants which will be commissioned in 22-23, and how they are working towards reducing the capex and this thing. And another important aspect was on the bolt-on technology, making use of the bagasse that is available in the sugar industries for 2G, and the VGF scheme to be extended beyond 2025 for 25 plants, and also for the bolt-on technology. So that is the basic takeaway from his presentation. Dr. Ramurthy Singh talked a lot about the tight targets that we have. In order to achieve the kind of tight targets that we have, it becomes very important that the productivity of sugarcane really goes up, and he has suggested many ways through which the productivity of sugarcane can go up, and how ethanol yields can also be increased with different varieties of sugarcane and things like that. And he also mentioned that the fact that 5-year guarantee is not adequate for the banks, which has been quite well responded already by Mr. Shukla, being lifted by OMCs year after year, and the procurement and distribution reforms is something that he was talking about, and also the pricing mechanism for 2G ethanol. And Dr. Chandrasekhar Rode talked about the 2G process and some of the new technologies of converting different feedstocks. And basically, he was also talking about the C5 and upgrading the xylose into furfural and various value-added products and lignin valorization, and also the pre-treatment cost to be reduced, and also the enzyme, the locally indigenous enzyme, which would really help bring down the cost considerably or make the 2G ethanol industry sustainable. So those wonderful some inputs have been given by him. And then we had Dr. Tipse talking about how ARAI has been part of the study for the regulation to the Ministry of Road Transport, etc. His work on additives for methanol. And the very interesting presentation was on the e-diesel, where ethanol can be blended in diesel, which opens up a huge market. Even when you are talking about 5 or 6% blend of ethanol in diesel, you require more ethanol than what is required for 20% blending in gasoline. So it's a huge this thing. He talked about the phase 1 operation, and the phase 2 will be on fleet of vehicles. And my suggestion here would be on a controlled, specific study in a particular area, maybe one city or two cities or a district, where this blend can be, the e-diesel can be tried out for a period of 1 or 2 years. And, we should be ready with these kind of studies by the time we have more ethanol available for our blending with diesel. And I'm pretty sure you are fully aware of what needs to be done in that area. Yes. And Mr. Sandeep Deshpande did bring about some important issues. We have to really look into alternate crops and the cost factors that needs to be really looked into. And he was also talking about, as the sector grows, the regulatory, the framework that we are having, we further needs to work on that and upgrade it. And also talked about how privatization can be brought in here at this. And we had Dr. Shukla responding to many of the issues that have been raised, and also he's been quite excited, seemed to be quite excited about the e-diesel possibilities. So by and large, there has been wonderful inputs and insights into making this ethanol program a very successful program in the country. As we all realize that it is not just the ethanol blending in the gasoline or diesel, are not just producing ethanol for even biojet fuel. Apart from fuel, you have industrial requirement, and moving forward, you are also looking at meeting many of the biomaterials and biochemicals can come from ethanol as a basic chemical. So opportunities are very big. In addition to meeting our fuel and other requirement, the ethanol industry is going to basically bring about a big change in the rural economy is concerned. Basically, whether we are talking about sugarcane or molasses or bagasse or any other agricultural residue that we are talking about, for all the kind of wasted resources, there will be a market that is going to be created. And, with our efforts towards increasing the productivity on our agricultural land, we can expect our farmers to definitely double or triple their income. And various Government of India objectives of doubling the farmers' income, generating employment in the rural areas, or our initiative towards the Atmanirbharta, all those things can be achieved through a robust ethanol program. So I would like to stop at this and hand it over to the organizers for them to take the program forward. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, sir. This indeed has been an enriching Manthan, which has touched upon the various aspects in the ethanol sector. There have been several deep insights and recommendations in today's Manthan that will be compiled into a compendium that would help to strengthen the ethanol industry in the country and will significantly contribute to our Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. On behalf of DPIIT and QCI, I would now like to conclude today's session by thanking Sri Vivek Shukla for setting up the context for today's Manthan. I also want to thank our moderator and esteemed speakers for such a meaningful deliberation today. Thanks to all our partners. Please pardon me for not taking the names as the list is very long, and QCI team for their hard work. And last but not the least, to our wonderful audience. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Presentations. We have had excellent tight targets that we have in order to achieve the kind of tight targets that we have. We should be ready with these kind of studies by the time we have more ethanol available for our blend. We all realize that it is not just the ethanol blending in ethanol program. So I would like to stop at this and hand it over to the organizers for them to take the program forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This indeed has been an enriching month.